What is going on, people? TripleM back again with another video, and today I would like to talk about some interesting tactical ideas that I spotted in yesterday's CARABAO Cup final between Manchester United and Newcastle United. Now, I did watch yesterday's game back, and I thought that Newcastle actually performed very admirably. I thought that Newcastle played very well, and I thought we saw an edge and a bravado to Eddie Howe's team that we have not seen this entire season. At least I haven't. I don't watch Newcastle an awful lot, but when I do, they tend to be a team that's very pragmatic, very rigid, very boring, and very risk averse. They are the highest team in terms of wasting time this season. They actually statistically are the team that waste the most time and are the team that have the most stoppages in their games. So they're a very boring team to watch. But yesterday, there was a bravado, an edge, a boisterous nature to the way they played that I have not seen. So big up to Eddie Howe, because to have the stones to do that in a cup final tells me a lot about your character as a manager, even though you did not win. Now, this is how Manchester United lined up on paper. In reality, Fred was actually playing a lot more advanced, which I agree with. You don't want Fred in these deep positions progressing the ball up against a deep press from Newcastle, or not deep, high press from Newcastle, right? You don't want Fred in these situations when Newcastle are pressing up high and there's six black and white shirts in the Manchester United box and in the Manchester United half. You don't want Fred playing the ball out in these situations. He's just not that guy. So you want Fred to push up and go help Bruno. Go help Bruno to try unsettle this press and create more passing options. You want Casemiro in this pivot to be able to spray this long ball, to be able to play this long ball to Weghorst, play this through ball here to Fred, play this line breaking pass to Bruno, or alternatively recycle it back to Martinez and Varane, and they can figure out what they do to bypass this press. You also want Luke Shaw tucking in, and you want Diego Dalot tucking in to create a temporary midfield three at all times. Sometimes Dalot was bombing forward, and it actually became a midfield two with Shaw and Casemiro, and almost the square formation here between these four. I really enjoyed watching that. Interesting tactical stuff from Ten Hag, and this is what Luke Shaw brings to the team. I know it's not fashionable to praise Luke Shaw. I know it's not fashionable to say that Luke Shaw is one of the best left backs in the world. I know that when you say that, people cringe, people assume that you like him just because he's British, right? Because of his passport, he's overhyped. Well, newsflash, I'm not British, I'm not English, I've got no ties to England whatsoever, apart from the fact that I love the Premier League. Actually, my country and England don't really have the best history, so it would be weird for a South African to be obsessed with a man just because he's English, right? Doesn't make sense. I like Luke Shaw. I think he's a fantastic player. It's got nothing to do with his passport. It's got everything to do with what he brings to this team tactically. The fact that he allows us to play in this way is really important. Playing as an inverted fullback is not easy, because you're not just playing out wide, hugging the touchline. You're actually now playing as a midfielder. Essentially, you're a midfielder. You have to be able to pass the ball on both feet. You have to be able to keep your head on a swivel to make sure that there's no one in your blind spot, right? You have to be able to receive the ball in the half turn around and not lose the ball and put your team in a compromising position in front of a hostile crowd at Wembley. That takes skill. That takes technical ability. But more importantly, that takes mental understanding of the position. And that's not an easy thing to do. So Luke Shaw tucking in here, playing this role, Dalot at times doing it as well, tells me that we have a really strong and fluid understanding of what Erik ten Hag wants, and it's encouraging as a Manchester United fan. When Manchester United were attacking Newcastle, whether it be in transition on the counter or just in general build-up play or from restarts and set pieces, you saw the situation where Rashford could not really attack comfortably because he was getting double-teamed quite a lot. Equally, Antony could not really get through on the side. At the very least, he always had one player on him. So when he tried to cut in and put in a cross, it would always get deflected, or it would just be a poor quality cross. Equally, when he tried to run down the touchline and squeeze it in from this area, he just couldn't. He was getting double teamed. The physicality from Newcastle was relentless, and the ability to double team Antony and Rashford and basically phase them out of the game was the demise of Manchester United yesterday evening. The only reason Manchester United's attack worked was because of Weghorst. That's right, the £2 million Burnley loanee was the reason Manchester United's attack was working yesterday. I am going to say it, and I'm going to say it with chest. Weghorst is the reason Manchester United had any semblance of attacking pressure yesterday, because his hold-up was the caveat to Newcastle's plan. It was the counter to Newcastle's plan. That's more the correct word. Because whilst you're double teaming Antony, whilst you're double teaming Rashford, you're leaving Weghorst open, because this guy's marking Bruno, this guy's marking Fred, and oftentimes Dalot is bombing forward as well. So he's drawing this player out of position, and you've only got one player at Weghorst. In fact, Weghorst had the best opportunity of the game on the 6-yard box because of this. They just weren't respecting him, and he nearly scored, but unfortunately he didn't strike it properly on the half volley, right? The goal comes from Weghorst. He holds the ball up for Marcus Rashford to run in through on goal and plays a cool, calm, collected pass. And what I like about Weghorst is he doesn't overhit it. He doesn't overhit it. He knows how to play the perfect weight of pass. He might not be the elite goal-scoring number 9, the elite penalty box number 9 that we all want at Old Trafford. But I tell you what, Wout Weghorst, in addition to being a pressing monster and a hard worker off the ball and somebody who understands doing the donkey work, somebody who understands carrying the piano for the artist to play rather than being the one who aspires to play the piano. It's important. Somebody's got to play the tambourine. In the famous words of Chris Rock, it's a band, and all bands aren't equal. Somebody's got to be the lead singer, and somebody's got to play the tambourine. But if you're going to play the tambourine, do it properly so that the song sounds nice, because the tambourine is just as important as the guitar. It's just as important as the lead singer. All together, it creates a beautiful melody and a song that we can all enjoy. And that's what Wout Weghorst brings to this team. He does the donkey work that nobody else is willing to do. And furthermore, I actually think he makes some of the players around him work harder, because they're looking at it and saying, if this guy from Burnley works this hard, what does that say about me? What does that say about me, who's driving a Porsche, who's been playing at Carrington for the last 6 years and hasn't won a trophy? I think he actually motivates the people around him to work harder, because if he can put in performances like that with his limited ability, what excuse do the Delos, the Rashfords, the Antonys of this world have? Right? I don't know. Maybe I'm reaching, but I think Weghorst is such a catalyst for positivity in this Manchester United team. And yesterday I look at his performance and I watched the game back today. So this isn't just me being reactionary. I actually sat down and watched the game back again this morning for the second time. And he was so pivotal. He was the reason any one of our front three had a decent game, because he was holding it up in positions, waiting for Antony to come to make the overlap and then giving it to him. He was waiting on this side of the pitch, waiting for Marcus Rashford to come across and to give him the ball. Every time Manchester United would counter-attack and he was the only option up front, yes, he doesn't have the pace to go and attack himself, but what he can do is he can hold the ball up and he can bully defenders off him until Bruno Fernandes gets into this area, until Fred comes into this area, until Delo comes into this area. That's one thing I noticed about yesterday's game. Another thing I just want to point out is Casemiro was brilliant yesterday. Casemiro was absolutely brilliant. And I know I said this in my match reaction, but I don't think this can be overstated enough. Casemiro is world class. I had a cousin of mine who's a Spurs fan basically tell me that he thinks we've overpaid for Casemiro. And at the time I was like, yeah, he's a Spurs fan. I don't really expect him to understand, but you do realize this is Casemiro, right? Like, of all the players in world football that we could have signed, we signed Casemiro. And I actually don't think 70 million is too much for Casemiro. I actually think 70 million is a bargain for Casemiro, considering he only had 2 years left on his contract. If Casemiro had signed a contract extension with Real Madrid, we probably would have had to pay over 100 million for this guy, because he's world class. Name a better CDM and a more complete CDM right now than Casemiro. The only person who enters that conversation for me is Rodri at Man City, and he isn't even playing that well this season. He isn't even having a great season. Casemiro is complete. I'll tell you why, because it's not just the physicality. A lot of people call this guy a destroyer, and I actually think it's insulting. Casemiro isn't just somebody who relentlessly dives into tackles and gets booked and understands the dark arts of the game. No, he's more than that. He's intelligent. He reads the game well. He knows where to position himself. But in addition to that, his technical ability is unmatched. He can play line-breaking passes. He can play soft, light-weighted through balls. He can play over-the-top lob balls. He can cross. He can score goals. He can assist goals. What can't this guy do? When Manchester United need a person to game manage and just keep it simple and play the short 5-yard passes, he can do that as well. He can do everything. He can do everything. And in addition to all of that, in addition to all the qualities and characteristics he brings to that team, he's a serial winner. Is it a coincidence that Manchester United end their trophy drought after bringing Casemiro and Varane to the team? No, it's not. Varane and Casemiro just don't know what losing is. It's not in their vocabulary. They are serial winners, and it's no coincidence that we bring those two, we bring Erik ten Hag, and suddenly our trophy drought ends, even after we all agree that our squad is nowhere near good enough to go challenge for the league or challenge for the other major trophies. We were still able to at least win something, right? It's not a coincidence. The last thing I want to talk about is something that's been bothering me. A lot of people, not a lot actually, a select minority in the Manchester United fan base and a few other rival fans have said that Manchester United have not really changed under Erik ten Hag and that we are a counter-attacking team. This is complete and utter bollocks. It is nonsense because it's such lazy analysis. First of all, you can't describe a team by one phase of play. Yes, a team can excel at one phase of play, i.e. a team can statistically score more goals than anyone else in the league from counter-attacking situations, but that still doesn't describe what they're doing because you can counter-attack in different ways. Some teams counter-attack by playing long balls to exploit high lines, which is what we did under Oli. If someone asked me what was our style of play under Oli, I would say we were very direct. right? We're a team that played with a lot of width and was just trying to get the ball from point A to point B as quick as possible. Game of hot potato, right? Who can get the ball for the least amount of time and pass it to the next man? That's essentially what our identity was in the Ollie. Don't take an extra touch. Don't try to hold on to the ball. Don't even worry about losing the ball. Just boot it forward as quickly as you can, and that's how you win the game. That's what it felt like to me watching Manchester United on the Ollie, right? But we were direct. We played a lot of long balls, and we relied on pacing behind. Those were the three defining factors going forward. Defensively, very rigid, very, very, very deep in terms of our line, our defensive line, and also in terms of our structure, it was a very low to mid block because we had a double pivot of McTominay and Fred. We had Maguire and Lindelof. Then we had Wan-Bissaka and what's his name? The boy Roberto Carlos on the left-hand side, right? Those were the six, and they were just always very compact, very narrow, very deep. That was our identity under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Notice how I didn't use the word counter-attacking or the word defensive transition because those are phases of play. You can't say a team is a counter-attacking team. Every team in the world counter-attacks at some point. So every team, by definition, by the idiotic Manchester United fan base, is a counter-attacking team. Under Erik ten Hag, we are not a counter-attacking team. We're a team that is capable of excelling at different phases of play. First of all, we've improved at set pieces. So we're astronomically better at scoring from set pieces now than we were under Ole. That doesn't mean we're a free kick team, right? That just means we're good at set pieces. Second of all, we're better at playing out from the back. That doesn't mean we are now a playing out from the back team. No, that means that's just one element of our overall game that makes us good. In addition to that, our midfield is not as erratic as it used to be. Yesterday, we did take a lot of shots. We did neglect Anthony out wide and not play the simple passes when we needed to. But that's because that was a clear instruction to play specifically against Newcastle. If you go back and watch some of our games this season, especially against mid-table opposition and lower half teams that play low block, our teams are far less erratic. Bruno Fernandes's decision-making has improved astronomically this season. There's been more games this season where he's kept it simple and you actually haven't noticed Bruno that much because he's not trying to go for the hero balls or the shots from ridiculous angles because of Erik ten Hag and because of Erik ten Hag saying, hey, my man, you don't need to be a hero. Sometimes you can just play the simple 5-yard pass and just wait because eventually teams get drawn out of position. And when that space is there, then you go for the hero ball. Then you play the loop ball over the top or the cross and you try get the opportunity. But don't just do it and try force it. Just wait. Be methodical. Be patient. And that's how I would describe us under Erik ten Hag. We are a puzzle of different ideas and we are capable of adapting to different situations. That, to me, is how I would describe Manchester United under Erik ten Hag. We are still a work in progress. However, we have come leaps and bounds since that Brighton and Brentford game, and we are certainly not a team that can just be defined and reduced to a counter-attacking team, as if we're the only team on the planet that ever counter-attacks in a game of football. It's absolutely ridiculous, and it honestly pisses me off as a person who likes, you know, looking at things a little bit deeper than the average football fan. Anyways, it's been your boy TripleM. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Leave a like on the video if you want to. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Peace.